I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your cattle market summary for the week ending June the 17th, and wow, what a week. The cattle market finally ran out of excuses to keep from dumping, and we knew that we got into this summer and we was really expecting it to be later in the summer, in the dog days of summer when it got really hot and we kind of ran out of demand. But the heat showed up this past week, and the market came right down with it. Just you know, and our fundamentals are still pretty stout, still killing a lot of cattle. Box beef has hung in there even past the buying of these early summer holidays. And but I tell you what, we just know that we don't have a lot to look forward to. We know we got bigger supplies of market ready fat cattle and calves and feeder cattle coming down the line, and everything was just it was just like a Jenga pile there. You know, you knew whenever you pulled one of those pegs out, the whole thing was going to come crashing down, and it did on Monday. All your cattle markets on the board were down the limit, which just put everybody on their ear. Tuesday it come back modestly, but not enough to do anything. Wednesday down hard again. Thursday down some. Then on Friday your feeder cattle were down really hard because corn took another spike, and then fats lint got some of that bearishness there and went on down a little bit more. But your live cattle on August ended the week at 112.55, which was down $4.80 for the week. Like I said, your corn was up pretty good. Corn was up 12 to 13 cents on Friday, which was why feeder cattle were down so hard there on Friday. But new crop corn on December ended the week at 4.48 3/4. You're getting up there pretty good. I mean, the guys that are growing corn, they love to see it coming up a little bit, but when you're trying to feed cattle, you know, you want the $3 corn, but now we're getting up there pretty high, and the old timers say you can kind of double that and roughly get what your cost of gains are going to be. So if we're around 4.50, that means a 90-cent cost of gain, and so we got a lot of gains that are working up towards that dollar. You may have some farmer feeders that can do it down in the 80s somewhere, but you know, we're getting pretty close to working towards a dollar. Then it gets a whole lot easier to figure about when you're buying these feeder cattle. You're not going to be able to back them up a whole lot. You can't give $1.40 for feeder cattle and sell them at $1.20 if it's costing you nearly $1 a pound to put it on. So they're going to have to bring that down. That's the biggest input that these cattle feeders have any control over, is what they give for feeder cattle. So you know that's going to be coming down, and it's coming down hard and fast. Your feeder cattle futures on the August contract down 220 just on Friday, but the end of the week at 137.42, which was down $8.13 for the week. So really down hard. But the heat and the humidity this week just was tough on everybody. Guys were puking their fat cattle, or the ones that were even close to the show list, because they can't keep the weight on those things, and they're so inefficient at the weights that they're at, and it's hot and they can't do anything with them. They would rather just go ahead and get rid of them at a lower price, which is sure what they did. And you didn't see a good market anywhere in your feeder cattle auctions, because it's just hard to move those cattle. Even when you're buying those big yearlings, when you get them in, you still got to process those cattle. It's hot, the guys don't want to do it, the cattle don't want to do it. Those cattle shrink a lot and lose a lot of weight, and it's really just a tough week and tough times here when we get in the heat summer. We didn't think this was going to happen until, like we said, late July, but we never thought we was going to see these triple-digit heat. And now we have to worry about it getting dry. I know if you listen to me regularly, I thought that it was probably going to get dry in the corn belt, you know, before they started planting that corn. Then we had some real nice rains there right after planting, and it looked like everything was great. Now it's starting to get hot and dry again, and now your long-term forecast doesn't look for much moisture in the corn belt. Boy, you know, if that continues, this cattle deal could really fall out of bed, as if it hasn't already. But fat cattle this week, sharply lower. They sold just a deal or two here early in the week, $2 or $3 lower, and we knew we was on the downtrend anyway. But then by the time Thursday came and they really started selling cattle, I think these feedlots were just afraid that they weren't going to be able to get anything close to where they was at. You know, there's people thinking we may not be able to keep these fats over $1 this summer. Well, they worked on them this week. Your live fat sold mostly from $119 to $122, which was mostly $8 to $9 lower. Like I said earlier in the week, you had a deal or two at $125, but for the most part, most all your cattle sold right around that $120, $121. But a lot of $119 up in the northern plains, all of a sudden they've lost their premium on their higher quality grading cattle because evidently they believe that this Choice Select spread is going to tighten. It's still pretty wide right now, but they're not going after the higher grading cattle right now. You look at that on your dress market, most all your cattle up north sell dressed, and it was down really hard. $13 to $17 lower, mostly $14 to $15 lower than just last week, selling from $190 to $196. And that is a ton off of where we was at. Now the June board is about to mature, and we've been talking about this huge basis for so long. Well, the June board is now at 116.72 ending the week. We're not that far away now. You know, maybe $4 or less, and they can, you know, we're going to be lower again this week, so they'll probably get that thing tightened up just like they always do. Every time you get one of those spot months maturing, you think there's no way they're going to get that basis closed, and they always do, and they always will. But your box beef cutout values this week for the weekly average were pretty good, really, and we expected them to be a lot lower, and that's why it's so amazing that we've lost so much market position on the cattle market when your beef and everything is selling pretty good and we're still slaughtering a lot of cattle. These packers have really showed that they need cattle, but the feedlots are unable to take advantage of that. But your choice cutout values on the weekly average were $225.53, down just 7 cents. Selects were up 75 cents at $202.54, but still, you know, a $23 Choice Select spread, but they're expecting that to tighten. They're expecting box beef cutout values to fall really hard this week. You know, we hope they don't, but traditionally this is the week that they fall hard. They could be as much as $10 lower, but, you know, the packers have already allowed for that. They're buying fat so much cheaper, they'll still continue to make money at that. Had a big slaughter week this week, was estimated to be over 600,000, 603,000 for the week, including Saturday, which is 12,000 more than just a week ago or the previous week, and 54,000 more than the same week a year ago. You'd think we'd be able to hold this thing together a little bit better. Your actual slaughter weights there on that information that's always 2 weeks behind. Those carcass weights have been falling right along, but this time they come out and they were 5 pounds heavier, 864 pounds on an average steer carcass weight. But that was during that holiday week, and when they do that, it's just, you can't really compare it. It's not apples to apples. Cash feeder markets this past week, $3 to $7 lower, and like I said, these feedlots and especially your independent feeders and guys, that's the biggest input they have control over. They've got to buy these cattle cheaper. There's no way that they'll work where they're at right now. They've got to get them lower again, and these early week markets are going to be a whole bunch lower again. They can't help but be. But you look at a quote, individual quote there on Cattle Market Central. You look at Pratt, Kansas on Thursday at 11 o'clock in the morning. They sold a big load of steers weighing 1,024 pounds at just 126, which is less than what Fats brought the previous week. If you total that up, that's less than $13 a head. Those steers would have brought that when they weighed 850 pounds. But from a home office here working with DV Auction in Canyon, Texas, we'll talk to you next week.